Well begun is half done. It is well said by a great Greek philosopher Aristotle. It means a good beginning almost assures success. Hi everyone, welcome to Learn English Grammar. In the beginning, as I quoted the saying, well begun is half done, is well fitting to today's topic. The topic is beginning and ending. A beginning of a good composition compels the reader to read fully. A good ending leaves impression on the minds of the reader how to begin a composition and how to end it. To explain to you, let me tell a story. Once in a town lived a young writer and old writer. The young writer was very excited to write his first composition, but he was nervous. The young writer decided to go and ask the old writer how to write a good composition. When he asked the old writer replied, "I have found after many years of writing, the easiest method is to announce what you are going to write. Write it and then conclude stating that you have written it." The young writer understood. From the story, what we get is all compositions have the simple plan, that is the beginning, the middle and the end. The statement, the development and the conclusion. It is important to begin the composition in an interesting manner. If not, the reader will hardly be encouraged to go on reading. Similarly, if you end with a weak conclusion, the interest you have aroused in the body of the essay or a composition will be dissipated. Now, let's learn how to begin a composition and how to end it. First, we'll learn how to begin a composition or the beginning of a composition. There are a number of ways to begin a composition. First one, use words to create an atmosphere. This is particularly useful in a narrative composition, especially in a story. Whenever we want to write a story, we begin in a simplest way. Once there was a king, or a long years ago. Or in this way also we can begin it. In a cool and calm raining morning. In this way we can begin a story to write. The second way how we can begin to write a composition. Plunge directly into the subject of the composition. For example, if you want to write down about selfishness, you can write down in this way. There are two types of selfishness: doing what you want to do and making others do what you want. So this is where directly you jump into the subject matter. The third one, how we can begin, let's see. Make use of the surprise attack or shock tactics. Example, there was never a good war or a bad peace. The next way how you can begin a composition is begin with a quotation. If you are asked to write about death, how will you begin? Here is an example. It is natural to die as to be born, and to a little infant perhaps the one is as painful as the other, says Francis Bacon. The next way how you can begin a composition is begin with a wittily phrased idea. Here is a wittily phrase that is given by William Cowper. God made the country and man made the town. Begin with a cliffhanger so that the reader asks why, or what happens next, or what's it all about. Here is an example. The house shook, the windows rattled, a framed photograph slipped off the mantel shelf and fell into the curb. If you begin in this way, the reader will be compelled to read ahead. Begin with a question. Here is an example how to begin a composition with a question. Which is the shortest way to London? Was the question for the best answer, to which a London newspaper offered a substantial cash prize. The answer which won the prize was, the shortest way to London is good company. Good company shortens any journey, however long. In such company, time flies. Miles slip rapidly past, and the end is reached almost before one is aware of it. Recount an incident or an anecdote. Here is an introduction to an article. Necessity is the mother of invention. A Hungarian journalist, Ladislav Biro, changed the writing habits of the world by inventing the ballpoint pen. Working as a proofreader, Biro became increasingly annoyed because the ink in his fountain pen kept on leaking. In late 1930s, he invented a metal tube and ball device, and his brother, a chemist, developed a quick drying ink. Biro took out a patent in Paris in 1939. This marked the birth of the ballpoint pen. Already we have seen a number of ways to begin a composition. These ways, when we are beginning a composition, would be attractive or a good one. But we need to be very careful when we are beginning. The opening sentences should not be flat. Here are the examples. If you are asked to write on mountains, you should not begin in this way. There are many kinds of mountains, big ones and small ones, steep ones and small ones, steep ones and sloping ones, cold ones and hot ones. In this way you should not begin it. It's a very flat and dry sentence. Next one is, as with all questions, there are two sides of the arguments. Here, if you are asked to write a composition on argumentative, okay, but how you have begun is not appropriate. It is simply a flat sentence. It is not giving any attraction or giving any impression to the reader. We have begun to write a composition. Now it's the time to end it. That means now we are coming to the endings of the composition. How we need to end it? Now let's see. Begin at the beginning and go on till you come to the end. Then stop, said Luis Carlos, King of Hearts. This is a good advice to each one of us. When you have said what you have to say, then stop. Don't go grumbling on repeating yourself. But it is not as simple as that. You also need to learn how to stop. A good composition may end leaving the reader with a surprise or with an original point of view, which makes him think. The last sentence may give a firm conclusion, a shock, a climax, or point out to a new angle of looking at things. Above all, end strongly and firmly. Do not just fade away. Let's see the example. The victory of the astronomers was a proof that European science was slowly awakening from its long sleep. It was also an encouragement to other scientists who began to copy the method that Copernicus had used so successfully. They looked at nature with their own eyes, contradicting long-established ideas whenever they felt there was reason to do so. Gradually, the thinking habits of the Europeans changed. Men were no longer burnt alive for believing the evidence of their eyes and the reasoning of their brains. This is the ending part of a writing. Already we have learned how to begin and how to end a composition. Now it's the time to practice. Unless and until we practice, we won't be able to do it in a proper way. Though we may know the different points to begin it, but unless and until we write and practice, we won't be able to understand it in a proper way. So here is a saying. With this I am going to leave you. I hear and forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand.